Well, good afternoon. I feel very honored and privileged to be here, and I consider myself very blessed, and I want to start with that. As he mentioned, I'm a cancer survivor. Ironically, this month, right before Halloween, was my last treatment. So it's one of those months that obviously is near and dear to me in that regards and reminds me just how blessed I am. And he also mentioned, obviously, my family. I have 5 beautiful children under the age of 8 that are all 20 months apart. So blessed beyond words with 2 sets of twins and a beautiful daughter. So I'm thankful to God every single day for that. And then my beautiful wife, as he mentioned, that has more beautiful from the inside out. And I mention these things in my strong family and how fortunate I feel that my life has been to grow our family business and to be able to sit here and be here at events like this today. And I want to start it that way because it wasn't always that way. And it wasn't that I realized it along the way either. It was those signs that you get each and every day that you kind of ignore. And, God was sitting here making sure I saw those things here a few years back. And today I want to talk about balance and making sure, obviously, you have your life in balance. And for me, it really started, obviously, with faith, family, friends, and prioritizing my life in that order exactly. And it was 8 years ago when we were building, and I'll start off kind of in my career and how it led up to where I am today. When I started off selling cars at the age of 15 years old, and I sold my very first car the second day, and I realized that summer that it wasn't just because of my last name that I would go in the car business. It was because something I enjoyed and was very passionate about. I remember at the end of the summer, almost in tears, going back to school because I enjoyed it so much. And I kind of took that challenge and kept on pushing it every single year up until I got out of college. And I remember distinctly after college, I was 21 years old, got my first real, obviously, opportunity in management. In that regards, I was sitting down with what we call our zone managers. They're the people that work for General Motors. They kind of help you along the way, make sure, obviously, you're pushing as hard as you can, that you can order your cars through all those aspects. And I'm sitting with this gentleman, and I'm all excited, I'm all eager, and I'm sitting there, I ask him a simple question. And I asked him, how do I take this store in Highland, Michigan, and make it the #1 dealership for sales volume in the entire country? And I remember I could still see him sitting in front of me as it happened yesterday, because he started literally laughing at me. And during his laughing, he said, Ryan, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you need to set your sights lower. There's no way you can be #1 in the nation out of Highland, Michigan. It's something I look back and reflect through my entire career and use often in different talking events. It's because it was so impactful. It really, to me, a challenge. We all get told we cannot do something. It's what you do with it afterwards. And I really became very determined, passionate, almost borderline obsessed to sit here and prove him wrong each and every day. And that's why I like to talk about that balance, because at that time in my career, I was working most nights until 1, 2 in the morning. I'd get up, be back to work by 8, repeat, and just repeat every single day. And I was being successful. My career was taking off. We were obviously selling more cars. We were growing. So everything just seemed right. It led up to a few years later when we were moving our Highland dealership, which was a Pontiac Cadillac GMC store in Buick. And we were moving it from Highland to another store in Highland that's much bigger, a lot larger store. And I remember that same fire and intensity with me. I literally had the blueprints taped to my shower door because I was very much determined to make sure it was the best dealership ever. And you look at this and I could say, wow, I was doing great. And then I have that eye-opening scenario because 3 months before we actually moved into that store is when I got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And, much like all of us, I lived in this bubble. I really thought, cancer won't happen to me. I've never missed a day of work for ever being sick. How can I have cancer? I remember it. I was my mom and sister were out of town. And I remember having to sit down in a meeting after a CT scan. And if I back up just a hair, I went to the doctors twice for a lot of coughing, a lump I found in my neck at dinner with my parents. And every time I went to the doctors, they actually said, here, you're okay. It's just here, take an inhaler. Nothing's wrong. Everything will be okay. It's probably the allergies from the construction. And I remember sitting there, and after going in for the second time, the physician assistant, not even actually the main doctor, is the one that said, hey, since you keep on bringing up this lump, why don't we do a chest x-ray? And with that chest x-ray, she comes back, she goes, I think you got walking pneumonia. I'm going to start treating you, but we're going to send out your chest x-ray just to be sure. So I started taking, obviously, all that medicine. She get a call 2 days later, Ryan, that came back negative. You don't have walking pneumonia. But because you brought up that lump on your neck, I want to send you for a test and get a CT scan. And I remember, okay, thinking I'll get it done, I'll figure out what's going on. But then again, living in that bubble, not thinking obviously anything could go wrong with me or my life. And it was during that time when I sat down and got a phone call here getting the results. I was at a meeting. Mind you, we're under construction, the biggest dealership we've ever done in my entire career. I'm responsible for it all. And I get a call. And I remember sitting here after the meeting, and my brother was in the room, and I could tell by the tone in the doctor's voice that something was majorly wrong. They said, Ryan, we were wrong. We need you to go tomorrow for a biopsy, and we got to figure out if obviously this is cancer or if it's not. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, 30 years old, how can this be cancer? Everything's going great. What are you talking about? And I remember just sitting there crying, and I had to call my dad because, as I mentioned, my sister and my mom were out of town. And I had to tell him, hey, Dad, I need you not to tell anyone, but he was in Dearborn, I was in Highland. I need you to meet me. He's like, why do we got to meet? I'm like, because I need to tell you something. So literally we met at the corner of Telegraph and Square Lake Road in the side parking lot. And I'm telling you, it's the hardest conversation I ever had in my life. It still obviously gets me going still today. And I had to tell my dad that his son had cancer. I watched my dad break down and cry, which was the hardest thing for me to see. And at that standpoint, I remember racing everything because I didn't want to worry my mom. So we literally did the biopsy the next morning. I could tell by their mannerism on a phone conversation that it was cancer. And I had to wait and ask my dad to lie to my mom and not tell her what the meeting was about until she got back. And I remember going through all of this and worrying, okay, what's going to happen to my hair, worrying about life insurance, how am I going to keep this from everyone? And I literally went through a month and a half of chemotherapy. I got my port, which is where they give the blood, obviously, or obviously give your chemotherapy, installed, went back to work. Went to chemotherapy, went back to work. And I kept on sitting here looking at this, not realizing that the signs that God was sitting here giving me that you have to have balance in your life. So I started looking at that, and I guess I'm just that bullheaded. So month and a half, we get ready to move into the new dealership June 2nd of 2008. I remember having to give a speaking event, and I still to this day couldn't tell you what I spoke about. For me, when I got chemo, and everyone reacts differently, but when I got chemo, it was like taking a Red Bull and slamming it, and you feel all jittery, and you feel like you're racing, your mind's racing, you can't slow down. That's what chemotherapy did to me in my mind. So when I gave this speech, I felt like it was the worst speech I ever gave in my life. Everyone's coming up to me, congratulating me. I'm like, I don't even know what I said. And I had to walk inside our dealership, and that dealership had a hair salon, a nail salon, a boutique, a restaurant. It's a flagship store. It's GM's only Gold LEED certified store in the country. And I had to walk in and watch my parents go meeting by meeting because we had 4 meetings with all of our employees. It's supposed to be the most exciting day of our lives, right? Biggest accomplishment. And I had to tell them all that I had cancer. I had to watch my parents each time as they just broke up and broke down and cried. And I learned from that because what I realized is everyone always came to me with their problems. I never outspoke my problems. And it was one of those humbling experiences when I had to share my life, what I'm going through, that I need help, and realize how many people rallied behind me. At that point, I went into our hair salon, and I actually had a close personal friend shave my head. And I never looked back. One of the pictures you see up there is actually a couple days later, my friends surprised me, and actually they all had their hair shaved as well and showed up just to support me. And you realize the strength in that. And then you realize how your priorities and what you really focus on need to be focused on the things that really matter. And yes, career matters. I'm not saying that, but you have to sit here and have this balance between a career life and your family life. And I think that's why God knew I was so bull-headed, that why He gave me 5 kids and a beautiful wife, to remind me of that each and every day, that I need to focus on Him first, focus on my family second, and then everything else comes after that. And what I also realized in this journey, and I'm still going through this journey, is the more I did that, the more successful I was. And it wasn't just successful in work, it was successful in my personal life. I can look at my 5 kids and know that I'm not missing their lives because I prioritize. Now, even though we've expanded from a couple stores back then to we have 20 dealerships, over 1,400 employees, but I don't work Saturdays, and I get home right around 6:30 every single night so I can spend as much time with my kids as possible. And I'm telling you this and sharing my story so maybe I can have an impact on you guys and gals, for anyone else that's life's out of whack. Because it's not that I don't work hard each and every day at work. I go as hard as I can, and I come home, and I got 5 kids running everywhere, and I go as hard as I can with them, and then you know what? We get an hour to ourselves, and we go to bed, and we wake up and redo it again. But you look at those priorities, we've been able to obviously bloom and blossom, obviously, and succeed more because of that. And I look at, we all face adversity, right? It's not unique to me. The gentleman before me was talking about his cancer battle that he just obviously won with melanoma. So many people are impacted, whether it be that or so many people are told they can't do something. All I ask for you guys and gals here today is don't wait for that moment. That was my eye-opening moment that, hey, I can't live this way. It's not healthy. Step back and say, before you get that moment, ask yourself, are you in balance? Do you sit here and have your priorities focused on what really matters? Because at the end of the day, that's what's your life and your legacy is going to be lived off of. And we give back. That's something my mom instilled in us back when we were young, is grassroots marketing, is giving back to the communities we live in. And really, it's who we are and what we are founded upon. And my sister and myself created a 501c3, which is actually called You Can Survive. So after my cancer battle, a year after, a gal came up to me and said, hey, have you ever heard of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Man of the Year? I said, no, I have no clue what that is. It's like, I'm going to nominate you. Okay. So we researched into it, and it's fundraising within 10 weeks. And at that standpoint, we're like, okay, we're committed to this. We did so many events. That one year, we've never fundraised like this before. That one year, we net raised $228,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Broke all records in Michigan. I'm like, man, look at how we can give back. Since that day, we've actually raised $1.5 million, broke off and created our own 501c3 because we want to make sure all of those funds we give go directly to support cancer and go directly to help the people with cancer. We're proud of that because they were taking something that could be obviously a problem that affected me and trying to sit here and figure out a way to win and beat that disease each and every day. And for us, it's by giving back and sitting here and helping that. We keep it all here local, right here in Michigan. We have 10 research grants going on at U of M Hospital. And this started from someone just saying, hey, have you ever heard of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Man of the Year program? So all I'm trying to say, and I know obviously we have to keep this shorter in a speech, but it's an aspect that we all have challenges each and every day. We all have signs that are there each and every day telling us, saying, hey, that just doesn't seem a little bit right. You're not prioritizing things. Your health has to become first. Your family life, your faith, everything has to be there. Then you'll succeed in life. And I'm just trying to sit here and tell you guys and gals today to try to take those challenges, those signs, and see them. Whether it be getting involved, obviously, in charity. Whether it be just, obviously, getting more involved with your family. Or all these passionate speeches you heard before me and we'll hear over the next 2 days. But we're all heroes. Everyone here has that hero journey. It's just do not wait until you have that time where you have that adversity, because we're all going to be affected with it until you rise up to that equation. So I truly appreciate being here today. Thank you very much, and let's enjoy the rest of the speakers.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.